Hello. After yesterday's loss, I was talking to some people about Clone Man and Orthus in particular about scrimming in matches, and they said that it's good to look at the positives. So I wanted to create a quick video for us that goes over all the things that I thought we did really well, and I think King's Row exemplifies this really well. Um, so for starters,
Attackers incoming.
we have really good pathing calls
Defend
here.
objective A.
Obviously we scouted what they were playing and we decided to go theater, which was a great call. We even have like a good little synergy here because they try to get a pull on us as we drop out of this window. The clone flicks his shield a little bit and we're getting away with it. Then we're calling what to do in the situation that someone drops here, and inevitably I end up falling off of this. So we have a plan for that, and we're calling our cooldowns, namely on amp. We even get a scouting on the tracer, who ends up coming up behind us. So I really like the scouting and all the prep we had for this. Like we haven't even taken a team fight and we have a plan. So as you can see, we engage. It's all well and good, except for Azaria, he sucks. And we take the team fight, right? Good wall, we zone them off. We re-engage. We realize we can just drop point here. So we do. Unfortunately, they get a pick, but we're able to stabilize enough. Doesn't matter too much, especially with the respawn. We're playing well as a brawl. We're converging on targets, which is really nice to see. We have great, like, just watch this Briggs health and look at our target focus during this. Like, you'll notice that no one else takes damage except for the Brig during this, right? Only the Brig dies here. It's the only target focus we have, which is really clean. Super clean. Then we swap to the Orisa. Yeah, I guess our target focus could be a little better there with clones in the back line and the Sigma taking a little damage, but it's all good. Still good target focus. And we're able to, so they originally surrounded us. They had 3 angles on us. We were able to clean off one of them, chip away at a second. Sass comes back and we're able to clear off a third. Yeah, it was a really clean attack. And what I like about this is that at this point we're already scouting, ultimates, we're ult tracking, we're fight planning. Really good stuff. So when we get into streets phase,
Objective
we have
lost.
plans, we have space,
Stop the payload.
a lot of good stuff. We're even emoting too, which is always pog. And we're able to capitalize on the fact that we get staggers on that point. We scouted their ults too. We realized they were close to Flux, close to Matrix. I think we said like 60 on Dragon though. We didn't count for Pulse. That's good. So here was an interesting play, right? Because they went for window and then a boop in on a Rhine to try to finish him off. We were actually able to rotate really well on this. Like, yeah, clones died, but look at this rotation. Look how clean it was. And then the follow-up to even this out is just brilliant. Target focus there was relatively decent. I mean, we had the Tracer in the back line, and we were really just focused on the front line, so it was kind of split, but at this point we're disengaging, right? Because they're investing more than we need to. We can just re-push.
Het universum zingt voor mij! Vamos!
Yeah, it's a good beat. We have a tendency to use beat and immortality field at the same time, which is a bad habit, as you can see there. It's really nice shatter too. We're able to stabilize relatively decently here. I think if we were grouped up a little better, it would have been easier for our BAP, but that's okay.
It's happening.
Yeah, we're taking space effectively. We're actually getting really good value out of the Mei walls this fight. Really nice job, George. And then the speed engage is just really pristine on us. It's nice to see us doing these kind of things because this is pretty high level play coming from us. Yeah, and this is a really clean take on first point, really clean take on second point. Third point, we have a little bit of trouble, but that's resolved relatively quickly. So my favorite part about King's Row is how well we manage our ultimates. We really have fight plans going, and we're reserving ults. We're expending ults relatively wisely. Some misshapen shatters, but overall, like our fight planning was really good.
Allah till mig! Not good. Огонь по готовности!
Idę walcują!
The payload has reached the checkpoint.
I think I agree with the casters here that the shatter was excessive. It would have been nice to save it, but you know, we know it worked out in the end for us. But it was a good window. It was a good fire strike, and the grav helps keep them still. So yeah, it was a good fight. And I like how much space we just get off of this for, you know, the two ultimates. A full team wipe, and all they've used so far is Rally, a Dragon. They've used Pulse Throw on their second pulse. They've used a Flux. They used Trance. This guy has not even gotten an ult yet, right? So we're doing really well on our ult economy. We've cycled through everything at this point. We had pretty good scouting here. We were able to figure out that the ball was on the flank. We had the Hanzo on the high ground. We were still able to poke. And I really like this Mail here because George gets pressured by the Sigma. We force shift out of him, and then we're able to reapproach it with Mail. And the high noon was a really nice touch. It was a really good combo.
Area denied.
Yeah, we get split off there. So it's a nice regroup on us, clearing these mines and like stabilizing here.
冻住，不许走！
It's happening. Area destroyed.
The
Yeah, so
payload
we
is
knew that-
approaching its destination.
We knew that the Hanzo was on the left, and we were definitely trying to poke him out, not commit to him, which was smart. We didn't have a lot of poke for him though, but that's okay. And Georgia was a great swap to the Tracer there too. It's a great way to clean up point. They don't even get the
Round
push.
one.
Ocean kind of messed up there.
Complete.
Yeah, so on the defense, we have
Initiating. Red.
a pretty easy time of tracking their pathing and their
5, 4,
ults,
3,
which I like.
2, 1. Attackers incoming. Defend objective A.
Also, the target focus on this defense is pretty solid too. So this engage is super well timed. If you guys have watched the broadcast version of this, uh, the casters are in the Discord channel with Aphelion, and they're doing their comms. This is actually when they were taking their engagement, and we all sped into hotel and pushed on the SIG right here. It was like really nice timing on our part because they were committing in as we were committing away too, but we have speed, they don't. So it was a really good team fight, really good engage. So, like, look at all this space we have. We basically just cleared out hotel temporarily, right? But we basically took point with all this and pushed them into a little bit of a corner. Sass, nice job contesting hotel there. Yeah, we're able to stabilize our positioning, really kind of like assert ourselves while we're waiting for a respawn, right? But it's great positioning from us, like good ability usage. And at this point, like they haven't done much, so we're able to get a window pretty quick. And the high noon too.
Helden sterben nicht.
So we're engaging on the Sigma here, but as the ball comes into the backline, so we're gonna actually trade tanks.
It's hot.
Yeah, the mortality field was just a second too late, or maybe it was out of range, but it was a good try. And I like the high noon here because it forces the Valk to reposition, and that gives us so much space. It lessens the pressure too.
Draw.
We're able to kind of converge on their Sigma here too. Like the space we gain from this is remarkable. It's unfortunate that the Echo takes a flank and gets value out of it, but you know that's the nature of it. But we're able to trade for it, but we can't stop the res.
Dein Schutzengel ist da.
Pass into the
Yeah, hilarious. But I think this fight, like for what it's worth, went relatively well. Losing clones at the start wasn't great, but we did get a trade, so it was still winnable. I think we just kind of after the high noon, we should have stabilized with the space that we had and not gotten picked by the Echo. But you know, it's hard to contest the hotel when we're high nooning. But I still think the high noon is worth it overall.
Hi.
So at this point, we know what ults they have. We know what we have. We have our plan. And what's really nice about this fight is we all died at good timing, and that's just such good discipline from us because they do not expect us to be ready to run at them. And it's so funny because I wish the broadcast stayed on them like just a second longer, because you can start to hear the Zen like curse as he realizes that we're pushing onto him.
Objective lost. Stop the payload.
Yeah, look at how well we just took all the space, and like those two picks are absolutely huge because they just use trance, right? They're close to Echo ult, like they're so far away from farming these things, and everyone else basically has ult, except for the Mercy, right? But Mercy's not gonna matter too much when we have high noon. Yeah, so taking space here was nice for chip damage, but at this point, I actually kind of regret it because we already have support ults. There's not really a lot of purchase that we get from this. But the engagement's still pretty clean.
Das Universum singt vor mir.
So this is another circumstance where we use beat and immortality field at the same time.
Area did not.
But I mean, for what it's worth, they do commit 2 ults into it, so maybe it's worth it. Food for thought, though. Yeah, the displacement's good, but at least you guys are paired together over here, which is nice.
Adaptive circuits engaged. McCree.
Огонь по...
Yeah, the re-engage here with Grav was really well timed. You guys pushing up as I was grabbing was like a blessing in disguise, you know? Yeah, so clean rotation, clean re-engage, and good follow-up. So at this point, we're planning for the May ult High Noon, Blizzard High Noon, which is a great ult considering, you know, we picked their Zen early on respawns, so we know he doesn't have trance. Taking a fast fight here after like Sigma uses sec or if he's out of position is the way to go, and we execute it really well.
Obrigado.
Yeah, the one downside to this comp is that we can't really scout, so like the Tracer ends up playing around here, and we don't really know it, but it's not too much of an issue. I think Sass you could have called out when she pokes at you a little bit, because you do turn around to acknowledge it, but ultimately it's not a big deal.
冻住，不许走！
It's high noon.
Yeah, so the cleanup on the mail is good. The high noon isn't what we wanted out of it, but it also does effectively deter their flankers from engaging on us, which basically means we took for the most part, like a 5v4, right? If you consider the Kree still in the back line, but it was a good clean fight. I think the only issue is that using the high noon in this case means we only have shatter for the next fight. And I guess there's some situations where we would want to just invest mail because we definitely didn't need the high noon there, but that's, you know, hindsight. And that's stuff that we learn with trial and error. But yeah, the downside to this fight is that we have no scouting information on the Tracer or the ball, right? So they actually get a pick on Sass here pretty early. It's not the reason why we lose the next fight, but it definitely doesn't help because they take 2 people to engage on 1, and in that time frame, you know, we could still engage on their 4. So this is when they decide to take their fight, right? They're pushing up on our Kree. Kame is peeling for him. I think we needed to be a little bit faster with the May wall because kind of were over here and then came back. We weren't really ready to engage on this. But we were definitely afraid of this Hanzo, like rightfully so because he was playing well. A little bit of a faster engagement on this, and I think it would have been a different fight altogether. So we trade, but they get immortality field out. Kame's now really out of position. And of course they converge on him, so we're down 1. But right now, the Hanzo's not in the fight, you know? Like, he was on the high ground. Their Zen's peppering, they're rezzing. But we don't have good target focus, you know? And there's not a lot to shoot. It's really only the Tracer harassing us.
Der Kampf ist noch nicht vorbei.
At this point, it's play on cart, get a pick or die on cart.
Pass into the.
Get Trance out. That's pretty worth it in my books.
Timed, locked on.
Nice dropping the pulse bomb clones. So we kind of pursue the Tracer, which leaves George and Gorba to die. So at this point, we should die on cart. Try to get out, but we get punished for it. So all in all, when we have ultimates, we have really good fight plans. Like starting out the map, we tend to have really good fight plans because we have, like half a minute to prepare them, sometimes more. It really goes to show you the difference when we have like these good fight plans, how well we play them and how well we execute them. It's just a matter of, getting those in the first place. And that's often the case with these kinds of things because the better we execute these, you see like just how clean we can play. And this is definitely like our comfort zone.
Don't sass me.
We're ready for the fight. Kame called it. The ball tracer's probably playing on high ground. We don't have much scouting potential. So this ball is actually like wiggling back and forth. We should have been able to hear him. I was checking the footage and I wasn't able to hear him. I don't know if anyone else was, but regardless, doesn't really matter. But he was right. I think ultimately, Kame, you just needed to play with the team there. It's nice to take high ground, but you should have dropped. And you do.
Helden sterben nicht.
Yeah, it's kind of unlucky that you take the pile driver damage, but you can see how split we are now. Like, we're almost all in Lucio speed aura, but not quite. And that's just by nature of like them having two flankers. I think engaging is still the right call, even if we leave kind of Kame in the dust to die. But the lack of kills we get like quickly is a lot of the culprit there. And then we end up backing up into a corner. So yeah, like we have a great engage on the Sigma, but this Zen was so far out of position and without trance too. The immortality field's good, especially because they end up mining it, but this Zen was so free. I mean, for what it's worth, like we stabilize relatively well. Like George ends up getting picked out from the res on the Sigma, but the stabilization is relatively good.
Das Universum singt vor mir!
Yeah, at this point, I don't like the charge. Like we still had the team fight over here. Like charging out of the flux is like it makes sense, but it put us in a really, really bad spot. As you can see, like they just have us in such precarious situations. So it's no surprise that we lose that fight and lose second point with it. Yeah, we came really close to staggering here, but it was good stabilization that we end up getting.
The payload has reached the checkpoint.
And like half the nature of these team fights is that we'll get better at taking team fights if we don't get staggered. And like this is one of those cases, right? Where we're literally all back. We just died, but we already have a pick, so like you guys can engage on this, and it makes sense, right?
Bombs away.
Hold on.
We're definitely good at like playing for poke here. They can't commit to us because of how little resources they have and how little health their tank has. So we're able to take this poke fight and play it pretty safely. And just think about it, like We know that this goes into overtime, and it's like a long overtime too. Like we poke this out for a really efficient amount of time, which is really nice on our part, and a really clean engage when we inevitably push. So this was the one time that I think we kind of had some trouble with the ult planning. So I had originally said, I think, Grav, Window Fire Strike, right? And then clones died, so obviously we can't Fire Strike that. So I changed the engage to be Blizzard and High Noon, but then we backed up, right? So when clones was back, it's kind of on me to not reiterate like we should grab Window Fire Strike. And, you know, George and I talked mid-match about that, how the miscommunication happened, but for what it's worth, it's a good Blizzard, and my Grav gets eaten because, you know, you had already used Blizzard and he missed. Unfortunately, I don't. Whoa! But it's a good Blizzard, and like you can see how much space we're able to contest from this and control. We have good peel on this, decent pressure on this, and like the front line has good presence. But yeah, you can see the miscommunication happening, and like this is honestly one of two circumstances where I think we can really be critical of our ults. But overall, like even on Mecha base, our ulting was like our ulting on Busan Mecha base was perfect. Like by the script, it was really good. It's good pressure we take to recontest this corner, because this corner is really important on third. You know, it's all about how long you can hold this corner and then stall out point. You rarely see fight wins around this area unless you have like a major old bank. But yeah, so this is a good fight from us. So now at this point we're calling Flux Dragon that they have, so we're deciding to stay spread. And we only have Shatter High Noon too, so we can afford to play a little risky here. And we do. Yeah, Kame was good scouting the Hanzo there. Hanzo was in really good position. It's also lucky on our part about how many shots he missed. Um, something to definitely consider. This ball had really good displacement, not a lot of follow-up. So he's able to displace our tank line, right? And as you can see, Sass about to flashbang him, or I think he already is, but yeah, this actually helped the dragon a lot on our part.
Hey!
Or I think they fluxed first.
Hammer down! It's handless.
Yeah, so this was interesting, right? Because it forces suck out of them, it forces trance out of them, and at this point, right, we have no ults other than like the beat that's coming up, and we force a lot out of them for this. Just like watch how many ults they invest into this.
Draw!
They do get immortality out of us, which I think we could have stabilized without it, but watch like the turn of events with this. So I think it was a relatively good immortality field. Yeah. I was blending the two fights together. In the next fight, they're gonna have mines here and flux it. I thought they did it right there though. It's a weird effect. Okay, so now we know they have a bunch of AoE based ultimates, and I call it a spread out here. And I think we do it relatively well. Like we have a decent back line and a decent front line, and we kind of use that to our advantage, right? I think what I would change is definitely keep the Lucio with clones because he needs the speed. Yeah, so this flashbang is huge, right? Because if he slammed this, it would have brought us all together, and that would have been like significantly more damage taken. But good job Gorba hiding from this too. Yeah, so then they invest mines into this. We invested B. Do we immortality field? Yep, we do. Again, I don't know if it's necessary, but it's something that we can discuss. If they're using two ults, like it makes sense to use an ult and ability, but I actually don't think we needed the immortality field here. So at this point, we're thinking about a re-engage, right? Unfortunately, clones is super low, but the ball is like less than half in our back line. So this is when we start to stay spread. Now they've invested 3 ults into this, and they've yet to get a kill. I think clones dies to this, though. Yeah, there's only so much you can do when they use 3 ultimates, but like at this point, right, we've burned 1:45 on the clock, gotten 2 team fights out of it, and close to 4 ults, right? 5 ults. 5 ults. Because he used pulls.
60
So
seconds
this is a
remaining.
brilliant time to die on cart, because we would actually get like a re-engage if we all died right now. But we kind of try to back up and we stagger ourselves a little bit. I don't like the window.
My barrier is destroyed!
Yeah, so this blizzard is hilarious because it accidentally gets value, but it was not worth it at all. One thing I do like about the blizzard is how you put it on the high ground so it has less travel time. Like, you know, with like Lucio beat, you jump, and like pressing Q as Lucio makes you jump, so you can jump twice by manually doing it. So like throwing snowball, the little icon thing, on the high ground was, you know, smart. Clones ends up getting value out of this, and it's just hilarious. I think ultimately, though, it wasn't the best idea. And neither was the charge, to be honest. But he gets really good peel from the immortality field and a bubble to save his life. And we end up stabilizing, and their ball kind of commits into our back line.
30 seconds remaining.
Yeah, so now they're on the back foot here because we're back at 6 and relatively healthy compared to them. I mean, they have trance, but yeah.
Hammer down!
Yeah, the follow-up on here is nice because, one, they have trance, so killing this Zen, beautiful, beautiful shatter.
Helden sterben nicht.
Its
So we
destination.
force Valk out of them so they can res.
It's hot.
The High Noon threatens the Valk, like you can see.
Draw!
Yeah, unlucky, but it's good not holding it for too long too. So in that moment I bubbled Sass for the High Noon, and now Clones is really low, but bit of an error on my part.
Огонь по готовности.
Yeah, Sag. I got booped.
Easy!
10 seconds remaining.
Wait for it.
Overtime.
Nice cancel.
Into.
Now they finally get to trance, right? He literally died, almost got rezzed. High Noon threatened it. We took the space. He walked back from spawn just to trance.
Dein Schutzengel ist da.
Now we have like such good momentum with this beat. We have 4 people, like they still have the numbers over us, but it's still good momentum, especially when it's overtime. You know, you take the chances that you can. So we're able to push up, but I Clones gets kind of out of position here, or we don't follow up enough with him. And they get value out of the mines. But, like we get a pick, which is really nice too.
It's high noon.
Yeah, it's amazing that we get value out of the high noon again, and like the pick from Gorba is really nice too. Like it's actually winnable, especially in like this screenshot right here. Like it's so close, you know. But it's crazy. Like this Zen gets another chance, mostly from this fight. I think George just had to reload, and that's why we couldn't finish up the kill. Sag. We actually made really good space there. Like I was able to contest the Zen and the Tracer. I die for it, but I left just one on point as we engage on the Doom to kill him, right? He gets Kame though, which is unfortunate, but what are you gonna do against Doom in a Discord Orb when you've already used Immortality?
Pass into the eye.
Yeah, this uppercut's so funny. And really good play by Sass here. Yeah, so close. Tracer almost died. But that's really where it ends.
Round
The attack
2
is pretty
complete. Score 3
But
to
you can
3.
see how how
Switching
clean we're
sides.
taking these engagements, our fight planning, our ult planning, our ult tracking, like our positioning is good. So it's not to say that in this tournament we played really poorly. Honestly, they abused our
Ready
worst
for
comp, which is
battle.
dive. Like they forced us not to dive, which is really
Howdy.
smart by
Ready.
them, and they were able to like exploit that and get value out of it. So there's not a lot to be too hard on ourselves. And like the funny part is watching this VOD, you see all the mistakes they made. Like I didn't realize in the moment how poorly they were playing, but there was definitely more ways we could have exploited them and taken advantage of some of the poor decisions they made. Yeah, it was a sad pick at the start. Stay alive. This engagement's really clean by us. The Maywall could have been better if it was like connected to the natural building, but the engagement on the Rhine here is pretty clean. It's a great freeze too. And I like this immortality field. Like it goes even with theirs, right? But I think we actually get more value out of it because we already have the space occupying it. So it forces them to go through hotel to flank.
I am loving this.
And just that window is so good. And this fire strike is clean. Yeah, we didn't scout the McCree in this case, which sucks to be Kame. But killing the Sigma there is really clean because they can't contest. So
Victory.
overall, this is a really clean matchup for us, and it shows a lot of the stuff that we've worked on, right? If you take a look at like Gibraltar, there's a lot of stuff that we've worked on that doesn't show on that map, even though we're playing a different composition, right? In these scrims, like, yes, we're learning these compositions, but we're also learning skills like short stacking and comm structure. And the difference between Gibraltar and King's Row is how efficiently we handle some of those things. So just because we're on a meta that we're might be uncomfortable with doesn't mean that the comm structure and like these techniques that we've learned need to be any less, right? And I think ultimately that's what got us. Like, you can say it's nerves from being on broadcast, and that definitely plays a part in it. But overall, it was the macro gameplay that got to us, not any of the micro. We kind of hamstring ourselves at the start of every fight because we weren't really prepped for them. So I hope this video is like a good, quick 40-minute explanation on like what we did good, what was really positive to look at, and you can compare that and contrast it to the maps that we did poorly and understand why we did poorly. And it wasn't just because we were on a new meta or we were anxious about being on broadcast. There's more to it than that. We just we practice scrims for the sake of learning skills so that we can apply them later. And I felt that on Gibraltar, Busan, um, at least Busan downtown and Sanctuary, not necessarily Mecha Base, um, we didn't apply those. And even Hanamura, we get caught out with one TP on second point. Actually, most of second point, we get caught out without a lot of communication structure. And I think that's a lot of the reason why we had trouble on attack. Defense, different story. We kind of know what happened there, but yeah, overall, like there's a lot of good stuff. Um, it it's a tough loss when we lose on the basics, but that should be humbling enough for us to register. This is why we lost. These are easy fixes. Playing a meta a specific way is a much harder fix. And it's super fragile in the sense that it changes constantly. So if we focus on the basics, we'll do well as we demonstrated in Kings Row. So yeah, I hope you guys can take the time to appreciate, what we've done and that we're not just getting 3-1'd by a team. There's certainly a lot more to it than that, but cool. I hope to see you in scrims on Tuesday.